Alright guys, this is not an Ashnerd review or analysis, as much as I love Ashnerd and I love Pelleas very much. A little bit late on this video because CYL has definitely taken the spotlight, but yes, here we are. So today's video is actually going to cover this guy's son. Or orphan, I guess. Yeah, let's go.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about Pelleas. Now, obviously this guy basically got overshadowed by, CYL hype and CYL units in general, and I'm still going to be talking and covering the other CYL units, but you can kind of consider this an intermission, if nothing else, and maybe find use out of Pelleas, or maybe his rar lion tome. Whatever. Alright, so yeah, we're going to talk about Pelleas in this video. We're going to talk about his inheritable tome and whether it's worth using, maybe, and of course potential allies, and honestly, if he is one of your favorites, then how you could probably find some pretty good use out of him. However, he's definitely just completely ignored due to the fact that, CYL happened. But hey, there's still things to talk about here. So as you can see, his stat spread is fairly good, but because he basically benefits from a new age of BST boost, so this looks pretty good because he's being inflated by all the, the niceties of having a BST boost. Now, what is important to think about before we even get into Pelleas, and before we even get into that, don't forget to smash the like button and sub if you haven't already. Thank you. Yep, let's do that. All right, no, seriously. All right, let's do this. So let's actually look at the other Red Tome Infantry units at the 3, 4-star, and Grail options, because that's where we should start here. So what you'll find out, and I have sorted this by min-max, thank you to Linus Main for making a great database, that'll be in the description below if you want to use it yourself, but essentially, sorted by min-max, there's a couple of things here we want to take a look at to find out exactly where Pelleas stands in the pool of 10,000 Red Tome Infantries, especially Grail ones, because man, there are literally almost 10 of them that have been given to us. Yes, 10 options for Red Tome Infantries. That Red Tome GHB meme is definitely a meme by now. But there are some definite things here to note, which I'll show you right now. Okay, so yeah, here we are. This is my amazing paint skills. Don't hate. But basically I circled some very notable things here to talk about. So first of all, Pelleas, as you can see from the database listing here, is that he is objectively the highest attack unit here, base attack at least. And this makes him a fairly good candidate of potentially an AoE special kind of build with special spiral. However, I'm not going to actually showcase that build here, and I'm sure it could be used, but that I leave that for the comments, and honestly, if anyone's using it, feel free to tell me. But I'm not going to actually talk about how you would use a giant base attack value, especially with an attack super boon. We're actually going to make a more different type of approach to how I feel Pelleas could be used. And the other characters here that I have circled is Urk for having very high speed, especially with that speed super boon, and he is recent, of course. And then we have Tharja as well, who's been circled here because, again, she's an offensive stat spread unit. But another thing to take note of is the fact that her preference tome basically makes her a high nuke type of red tome, and her effect on that preference tome actually debuffs attack and speed on foes. Combined with Blade Tome, it means that she's actually quite fast, and the whole 20 Dragon Flowers really does actually help her catch up in the kind of like battle here for offensive stat spread. Now the last guy I've circled is actually at the top here, who's Julius, because he's actually due for a refine very soon, and that refine could definitely put him as a solid contender for Red Tome Infantry. That's basically all I'm going to talk about within these guys here. There's definitely some more things you could compare and contrast, but honestly, Red Tome Infantries, a lot of gimmicks. You can use support tomes and whatnot, but we're going to focus on the actual stat spread of Pelleas here and what it means. So first of all, if you don't know what his tome does, I will show that to you in a moment here, which is the Lion Tome. I'm just gonna call it Lion Tome, guys. I'm not even bother with the first part, and I'll show you my pros and cons of how I feel about Pelleas, which I have quite a few things I've already stated. So as you can see below, very high base attack that lends itself well to an AoE special type of build, but I won't cover that here. Pretty fast, like his speed stat is actually pretty good compared to others. He benefits from the modern stat spread, but that's basically all he has going for him. Let's be real, he's not unique, there's no preference weapon, and he ends up costing you grails when it could be used on somebody who actually has a preference tome or just doesn't cost grails, like Tharja, and is just really good anyways. Or another nuker like Lilina, for example, who's also gonna be pretty competitive in this regard. So yeah, it's whatever. The tome itself grants attack, 6 attack to adjacent allies, which may seem pretty like whatever at first, but we'll talk about it. And of course, it has an additional effect for the user of that Lion Tome to give him a little bit of an attack and res boost when engaging in combat. Again, whatever. The attack is worth talking about though, which I will cover in a moment. His fodder is whatever. I guess you could fodder brazen attack speed for brazen attack speed 4, but like what is that actually for? Like PvE content? There's no real application for brazen attack speed 4 right now. I feel you could maybe make it work with something like Winter Bernadetta and like an Ardent Sacrifice ARO team and setting up some crazy PvE nuke potential. Maybe like Brave Lysithea, but that really does nothing to do with Pelleas. It's just he could be fodder for that sort of, I guess, team. But yeah, I wouldn't like fodder him, to be honest. Okay, so first build I want to showcase is potentially for you guys who are big Pelleas fans, which is if you do want to pick up an additional Henriette from the Hero Fest running right now, then he's pretty solid to use a Unity Blooms set with defense boost on that, using no follow-up, which is great on, of course, Infantry, Pulse Smoke, Distant Defense 4 you'd also pick up. So if you want to heavily invest by the time he comes back in the Grail Shop, this is a solid way to do it because, again, he benefits from a modern stat spread, so technically he won't cost you literally like 2,000 flowers to get one of the other Red Tome Infantry to this place. And yeah, he's just, you can, that's pretty, I think it's pretty good. I mean, if you like Pelleas, you could probably do this. One thing you want to note though with ranged tanks, ranged carries though, and of course you could use different A skills and B skills. Null Sea Disrupt is solid here. Lull skills, so double solo, mirror stance 3, that all works too. Use whatever fodder you have. Don't objectively think it's the best. Blooms is good though. I probably would highly consider that one. Anyways, back to the point here. So when you use a ranged tank, it's always good to pair up that ranged tank with a worse near save tank. And who better than to use the Black Knight himself. So of course, another shout out to near save Black Knight, who really benefits from, of course, the Hero Fest, and he can pick up near save and sturdy stance or slick fighter from Henriette if you go that deep here. So honestly, like Black Knight, Alondite, and just near save tanking with him works out really well. He may not actually be the most optimal partner here, let's be real, because you'd be kind of stacking red and red, Pelleas and Black Knight. You won't have as favorable matchups as you could. But hey, immersion is always good. Pelleas is great, so why not? Why not have a solid protector protect him? But yeah, maybe a blue or a green armor with near save is probably going to be a bit better. Probably green with like, Brave Edelgard or Gustav. They're pretty solid. That's the real like meta way to do it. But you know what? I like the immersion, so why not? All right. So next up, another build for Pelleas here would be a defense potential build. I'm not going to super be like thrilled by this concept. I don't think it's that great, but if we did come back to a sort of infantry pulse meta, then he'd be a solid candidate there just because his attack stat is really high, his res stat is really good, so you could end up running stuff like Iceberg, Glaciers, Draconic Aura, Dragon Fang, I guess. And of course, the Fox Tome is solid for this. I wouldn't use the Lion Tome. You could also run like a Blade Tome, I guess, but in that case, you're probably overlapping with Tharja there or something like that. So yeah, I'm not thrilled by this, but I guess you could do it there too, but it would be more meta dependent. He has some heavy competition for red tomes on defense, so I'm not thrilled by that. Alright, anyways, enough about Pelleas, guys. Let's talk more about Lion Tome. So my one recommendation for Lion Tome, actually, based on the current meta, would actually be a new toy for Arete. Here we go again. And yeah, so it's not actually a buff to Arete, but rather the partner that you use on defense with Arete. Since defense is heavily focused on calves in general, it's like, for those of you that don't have dual lift or dual Sigurd or legendary Sigurd, like this guy, then someone like Arete ends up being a solid red tome option. Now, as I said, Lion Tome's attack buff is a solid thing to consider, especially with odd speed wave if you're having hunts on that, or odd defense wave, or odd res wave, or just stacking the wave skills in general, because of another potential partner, which is Thunderhead Olwen. But this could honestly just be any blade, tome, cav, but honestly, Thunderhead Olwen is the clear winner here, because she has a blade tome for a cav. So if you end up heavily investing here on Olwen or Arete and using a Lion Tome to basically super buff Olwen, and you can really do this well if you make Olwen the 7th unit. So on defense, 7th unit Olwen, she gets dance at the beginning of a turn using someone who's resilient to isolation, so that could be Eldigan, for example, or just odd recovery if you don't run into safety fences, but essentially have Arete right beside, have all these buffs being stacked. Lion helps with this, and you have a literal 100 plus attack Olwen who will smash the meta game. Well, that's probably a little exaggerated, but she will be a very strong nuke that will generally be avoided by many, because that tome is still good, and having a blade tome with a preference weapon is still pretty rare-ish on an actual good unit. So yeah, that would be honestly the best way to use Lion Tome if you ask me. It wouldn't really work on Pelleas because he just doesn't have the movement that Arete has, and Arete does this better if you ask me. So yeah, that's my coverage of Pelleas, guys. I guess this isn't short and sweet, but generally speaking, hopefully you did pick something out of this, gain something out of this, and maybe you found some use for either Pelleas or the Lion Tome itself. We'll find out. If I did miss something, then just tell me in the comments below. And yeah, smash the like button. So if you haven't already, if you love this content, we have a Patreon way of supporting the content and showing that you truly love it. That will also have some more engagement in future videos, such as banner polls, community voting, Discord for streams, and just theory crafting all around. So that's what I try to give back to my best supporters. Love you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.